25 oldest black female artists who are surprisingly still alive that will shock you. You won't believe some of these legendary queens are still with us, alive, thriving, and continuing to shape the music world. From Motown icons to soul survivors, these women shattered barriers and built the foundation of black music history. But how many of their stories are being forgotten? It's time to give them the flowers they deserve, while they're still here to receive them. Stick around, you might be shocked by who's still alive and inspiring new generations. Backhand index pointing right. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for more powerful, untold legacies. Roberta Flack, 88 years old. Roberta Flack's musical legacy is one of elegance, emotional depth, and quiet revolution. Rising to prominence in the early 1970s, Flack is best known for her intimate ballads like The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face and Killing Me Softly with His Song, both of which earned her Grammy Awards for Record of the Year in back-to-back years, 1973 and 1974, a feat no other artist had achieved at that time. These performances redefined soul and pop music with their stripped-down, haunting simplicity. What set Flack apart was her fusion of classical training and soulful expression. A classically trained pianist, she studied at Howard University and initially aimed to become a music teacher. But her subtle vocal delivery and refined compositions drew the attention of jazz greats, leading to a recording contract with Atlantic Records. Her debut album, First Take, was initially overlooked until Clint Eastwood used one of its tracks in his film play Misty for Me, catapulting her to stardom. Flack's collaboration with Donny Hathaway yielded timeless duets like Where Is the Love and The Closer I Get to You, both of which became staples on radio playlists for decades. She charted 14 top 40 hits and sold over 20 million records worldwide. Beyond her artistic achievements, Roberta Flack has also championed music education. Her foundation has provided scholarships and instruments to underprivileged youth, showing that her legacy goes beyond chart success. In her later years, she has faced health challenges, including a stroke and a diagnosis of ALS in 2022, which affected her ability to sing. Still, her influence endures. At 88, Flack remains a towering figure in American music, graceful, groundbreaking, and deeply beloved. Shirley Caesar, 86 years old. Known globally as the First Lady of Gospel, Shirley Caesar's name is synonymous with passionate worship and powerhouse vocals. With a career spanning more than 7 decades, Caesar has become a cultural and spiritual icon, delivering messages of faith, perseverance, and hope through her music. Born in Durham, North Carolina, she began singing in church as a young girl and released her first gospel recording at the age of 12. Caesar gained national attention in the 1960s when she joined the Caravans, one of the most influential gospel groups of the era. Her voice, dynamic, fiery, and filled with conviction, stood out immediately. After leaving the group, she launched a successful solo career that would make her a household name in gospel music. Over the years, she has released more than 40 albums and earned 11 Grammy Awards, including a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. Not just a performer, Caesar is also a pastor, author, and humanitarian. She founded Mount Calvary Word of Faith Church in Raleigh, where she served as senior pastor for decades. Her community outreach work includes feeding programs, prison ministry, and scholarships for underprivileged youth. Among her most famous songs are Hold My Mule, Jesus, I Love Calling Your Name, and You're Next in Line for a Miracle. Her storytelling style, blending traditional gospel with spoken word and testimony, has captivated audiences across generations. In recent years, Caesar experienced viral fame when a snippet of her song, Hold My Mule, became the basis for the Thanksgiving meme, You Name It. Rather than shy away from the moment, she embraced it, laughing and dancing in interviews, proving her timeless relevance. At 86, Shirley Caesar remains a radiant symbol of gospel excellence, a living legend whose impact stretches far beyond the pulpit or the stage. Mavis Staples, 85 years old. Mavis Staples has spent her life using music as a weapon for justice, healing, and unity. As the youngest member of the legendary Staples Singers, Mavis helped blend gospel music with activism during the height of the civil rights movement. With a deep, gravelly voice and unmatched emotional intensity, she became the sound of spiritual defiance, transforming stage and studio into sanctuaries of resistance. Born in Chicago, Mavis started performing in churches with her family at just 11 years old. The Staples Singers, led by their father Roebuck Pops Staples, became famous for hits like I'll Take You There, Respect Yourself, and Let's Do It Again. Their music was gospel-rooted, but crossed into soul, funk, and R&B, creating a sound that was both uplifting and socially conscious. Following her family's success, Mavis launched a solo career that would bring her even greater critical acclaim. She worked with Prince in the 1980s, later collaborated with Wilco's Jeff Tweedy, and continued to release award-winning albums into her 80s. Her 2010 record You Are Not Alone won the Grammy Award for Best Americana Album. Staples has remained a powerful voice in both music and activism. She's marched with Dr. King, been honored at the Kennedy Center, and performed for multiple U.S. presidents. Her art carries the soul of gospel but speaks the language of every generation, pain, resilience, and joy. In 2021, Rolling Stone ranked her among the 200 greatest singers of all time. And she's still performing, touring, recording, and preaching love through her lyrics. At 85, Mavis Staples is more than a singer. She's a national treasure. Her voice, once raised in protest and praise, still calls us to higher ground. Candy Staton, 85 years old. With a voice that swings effortlessly from raw gospel to sultry soul, Candy Staton has spent over 6 decades redefining what it means to be a survivor in the music industry. Born in Huntsville, Alabama, Staton began her career as a gospel singer alongside the Jewel Gospel Trio, touring with legends like Mahalia Jackson during the 1950s. But it wasn't until the late 1960s that she made her mark as a solo artist, transitioning into R&B and soul with a gritty, emotional edge. Her breakthrough came with a string of powerful soul singles on Fame Records, including I'm Just a Prisoner and Stand By Your Man, a daring rework of Tammy Wynette's classic. But her biggest commercial success came in 1976 with Young Hearts Run Free, a disco anthem about personal liberation that topped charts worldwide and became her signature song. Throughout her career, Staton has been unflinchingly honest about her struggles, with abusive relationships, addiction, and the highs and lows of fame. This honesty bled into her lyrics, giving her music a depth few artists could match. In the 1980s, she returned to gospel and became a fixture in Christian music, even hosting her own Christian television show, Say Yes. Incredibly, Candy has continued to record and tour well into her 80s. Her later albums, including His Hands, 2006, and Unstoppable, 2018, were critically acclaimed, with the former produced by Mark Nevers and featuring songs written by Will Oldham. In 2023, she was honored with the Americana Lifetime Achievement Award for her genre-crossing legacy. At 85, Candy Staton is still running free, bold, brilliant, and beautifully unfiltered. Her journey isn't just one of talent but of transformation, proving that authenticity will always outshine the trends. Dionne Warwick, 84 years old. Few voices in American music are as recognizable, or as timeless, as Dionne Warwick's. With her unmistakable tone and graceful delivery, she helped define the sound of sophisticated pop and soul in the 1960s and 70s. Born in East Orange, New Jersey, Warwick was surrounded by gospel influences early on, with family ties to singers Dee Dee Warwick and Whitney Houston. But it was her collaboration with songwriters Burt Bacharach and Hal David that elevated her to superstardom. Her early classics, Walk On By, I Say a Little Prayer, Do You Know the Way to San Jose, weren't just hits, they became musical touchstones, blending lush orchestration with aching vulnerability. Between 1962 and 1998, Dionne placed an astounding 56 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, making her one of the most charted female vocalists of all time. Warwick's career has never been confined to one genre. She has navigated pop, soul, gospel, jazz, and adult contemporary with ease. In the 1980s, she famously teamed up with Elton John, Stevie Wonder, and Gladys Knight for the AIDS awareness anthem, That's What Friends Are For, which raised millions and won 2 Grammy Awards. Beyond her music, Dionne has been a committed humanitarian. She served as a UN Global Ambassador for the Food and Agriculture Organization and has supported numerous causes, including HIV, AIDS research and children's education. In recent years, Warwick has experienced a pop culture renaissance, thanks in part to her witty Twitter presence, which has introduced her to a new generation of fans. She also starred in the 2023 CNN documentary Dionne Warwick, Don't Make Me Over, further cementing her legacy. At 84, Dionne Warwick is as sharp, elegant, and culturally relevant as ever, a masterful artist who continues to teach the world how to walk on with grace. Irma Thomas, 84 years old. Often called the Soul Queen of New Orleans, Irma Thomas is one of the most enduring and underappreciated voices in American music. Born in Ponchatoula, Louisiana, and raised in New Orleans, Thomas began singing gospel music in church before stepping into the rhythm and blues scene as a teenager. Her voice, smoky, strong, and full of feeling, captured the essence of heartbreak and hope, earning her a loyal following in the South and beyond. In the 1960s, Thomas recorded a string of unforgettable songs, including It's Raining, Wish Someone Would Care, and Time Is On My Side, the latter of which was later made famous by the Rolling Stones. Though mainstream chart dominance eluded her, Thomas's influence spread quietly but powerfully through generations of soul and R&B singers. Her music was deeply rooted in personal experience. A young mother who married early and worked as a waitress while performing at night, Thomas brought real-life struggle into every note. This authenticity became her hallmark. She remained active even as musical tastes changed, continuing to tour and record while staying true to her soulful roots. In 2007, decades into her career, Thomas received her first Grammy Award for After the Rain, an album recorded shortly after Hurricane Katrina devastated her home and nightclub, the Lions Denver. The project resonated with both sorrow and resilience, symbolizing her city's, and her own, unbreakable spirit. Still performing well into her 80s, Irma Thomas has received countless honors, including inductions into the Louisiana Music Hall of Fame and the Blues Hall of Fame. Despite never achieving the widespread fame of some of her peers, she remains a towering figure in New Orleans culture and a beacon of soulful longevity. At 84, Irma Thomas doesn't just represent survival, she embodies soulful endurance and artistic grace. Barbara Lynn, 83 years old. In the male-dominated world of early rock and R&B, Barbara Lynn broke the mold. A left-handed guitarist, songwriter, and powerful vocalist, Lynn not only played her own instrument, rare for female artists of her era, but also wrote many of her hits. She emerged in the 1960s with a unique blend of bluesy soul and swamp pop sensibilities that made her instantly distinctive. Born in Beaumont, Texas, Lynn was inspired by blues greats like Guitar Slim and Jimmy Reed, but she carved her own path. In 1962, she skyrocketed to fame with You'll Lose a Good Thing, a self-penned track that hit #1 on the R&B charts and crossed over to the Billboard Hot 100's top 10. It was a rare feat for a black woman playing electric guitar and writing her own songs, a groundbreaking moment that cemented her place in music history. Her sound, a mix of Southern soul, rhythm and blues, and heartfelt balladry, led to appearances on shows like American Bandstand and tours alongside stars such as Otis Redding, Al Green, and B.B. King. Despite taking a long break in the 1970s to raise a family, Lynn made a strong comeback in the 1980s and has since enjoyed renewed acclaim, particularly in Europe and Japan, where soul revival movements embraced her legacy. In 2018, Lynn received the National Heritage Fellowship from the National Endowment for the Arts, the U.S. government's highest honor in folk and traditional arts. It was a long overdue recognition of her pioneering role and lasting influence. Today, at 83, Barbara Lynn continues to perform occasionally and remains revered by soul collectors and guitarists alike. She isn't just a trailblazer, she's a living reminder that raw talent and quiet innovation can break barriers that others never dare to touch. Darlene Love, 83 years old. Darlene Love is a powerhouse vocalist whose voice helped shape the golden age of rock and roll, though for years, her name remained behind the scenes. Born in Los Angeles, Love began her singing journey in her church choir, where her commanding voice quickly stood out. By the early 1960s, she was recording for legendary producer Phil Spector and became the uncredited voice behind several of his biggest hits. Love's vocal brilliance can be heard on classics like He's a Rebel and Today I Met the Boy I'm Gonna Marry, though they were often credited to groups like the Crystals. This lack of proper recognition remained a painful chapter in her early career. But her voice, soaring, emotional, unmistakable, continued to resonate, becoming a staple of Spector's iconic Wall of Sound productions. Despite the lack of upfront credit, Love's talent couldn't stay hidden forever. In the 1980s, her annual performances of Christmas, Baby Please Come Home, on David Letterman's show reintroduced her to new audiences and became a beloved holiday tradition. Her powerful delivery, even decades later, proved timeless. In 2011, Love was finally inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a moment she described as long overdue. That same year, she was prominently featured in the Academy Award-winning documentary 20 Feet from Stardom, which spotlighted the stories of legendary background singers. Outside of music, Love has acted in Broadway musicals like Hairspray and appeared in the Lethal Weapon film series. Her voice, rich with gospel fire and rock and roll edge, has influenced countless artists, from Bruce Springsteen to Bette Midler. Now 83, Darlene Love continues to perform with the same explosive energy that made her a hidden legend. She's not just part of music history, she is music history, finally getting the spotlight she always deserved. Martha Reeves, 83 years old. Martha Reeves is best known as the fierce and fabulous lead singer of Martha and the Vandellas, one of Motown's most influential girl groups. But her impact goes far beyond chart-topping hits, it's embedded in the soul of American music. Born in Eufaula, Alabama, and raised in Detroit, Reeves began her career singing gospel before stepping into the secular spotlight. In the early 1960s, Reeves took a job as a secretary at Motown, where fate intervened. One day, she was asked to fill in during a recording session, and her voice blew the producers away. That moment launched a career that would define the sound of an era. With hits like Dancing in the Street, Heat Wave, Nowhere to Run, and Jimmy Mack, Reeves brought fire and funk to the Motown catalog. Her vocals, full of urgency, grit, and passion, turned every track into an anthem. Dancing in the Street, in particular, became more than a hit, it evolved into a rallying cry during the civil rights movement. With its upbeat rhythm and powerful delivery, Reeves gave voice to joy and resistance at once. After leaving Motown in the early 1970s, Reeves pursued a solo career and even entered politics, serving on the Detroit City Council from 2005 to 2009. Throughout it all, she continued to tour and perform, often with the Vandellas, keeping the Motown flame alive for new generations. She's been honored with induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and her influence has touched artists from Beyoncé to Bruce Springsteen. Despite decades in the industry, Reeves still commands the stage with vibrant energy. At 83, Martha Reeves remains a vibrant force, a voice of change, celebration, and soulful defiance. She didn't just sing for the moment, she sang for the movement. Diana Ross, 81 years old. Diana Ross isn't just a singer, she's a cultural icon whose influence spans music, fashion, film, and generations. Born in Detroit, Michigan, she rose from modest beginnings to become the lead singer of the Supremes, Motown's most successful group and one of the best-selling girl groups of all time. With Ross at the helm, the Supremes delivered 12 #1 hits including Baby Love, Stop, In the Name of Love, and You Can't Hurry Love. Her elegance, stage presence, and polished vocals define the Motown era. In 1970, Ross launched her solo career, immediately scoring hits with Ain't No Mountain High Enough and Touch Me in the Morning. She continually reinvented herself throughout the decades, with chart toppers like Upside Down, Endless Love, a duet with Lionel Richie, and I'm Coming Out. Her music bridged disco, pop, and soul, while her signature style influenced generations of performers from Beyoncé to Rihanna. Ross is also a trailblazer in Hollywood. She earned an Academy Award nomination for her portrayal of Billie Holiday in Lady Sings the Blues, 1972, followed by standout roles in Mahogany and The Wiz. Her ability to blend music and acting made her one of the first black women to achieve crossover superstardom. Throughout her career, Ross has sold over 100 million records and earned numerous accolades, including a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, an American Music Award for Lifetime Achievement, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Still touring and performing into her 80s, Diana Ross exudes timelessness. Whether she's gracing a stage or commanding the red carpet, her name is synonymous with class, resilience, and brilliance. At 81, she's not just a legend, she's the blueprint. Patti LaBelle, 80 years old. Patti LaBelle has one of the most powerful voices in music history, a voice that soars, shouts, whispers, and commands. Dubbed the godmother of soul, LaBelle's musical journey began with Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells in the 1960s, evolving into the genre-blending, boundary-smashing group LaBelle in the 1970s. With futuristic fashion and powerhouse vocals, LaBelle scored a #1 hit with Lady Marmalade in 1974, cementing Patti's place in music history. Her solo career exploded shortly after, with hits like If Only You Knew, New Attitude, Love, Need and Want You, and the timeless duet On My Own with Michael McDonald. Patti's stage performances are electrifying, full of energy, drama, and those famous high-octane vocal runs. She's the type of singer who doesn't just hit notes, she owns them. What sets LaBelle apart isn't just her musical prowess but her versatility. She's acted in film and TV, A Different World, American Horror Story, written cookbooks, launched food brands, and remained a tireless advocate for health awareness, especially diabetes, which she manages personally. Known for her no-nonsense attitude and heart of gold, Patti is also a champion for LGBTQ+ rights and a beloved figure in Black American households. She's won 2 Grammy Awards, been inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame, and was honored with a BET Lifetime Achievement Award. Even in her 80s, LaBelle still tours, records, and wows audiences. Her voice remains unmatched, and her legacy continues to grow with every new generation that discovers her. Patti LaBelle isn't just a singer, she's a force of nature wrapped in sequins, heels, and soul. Millie Jackson, 80 years old. Millie Jackson is one of the boldest, most outspoken voices in soul music, a boundary breaker who combined raw emotion with razor-sharp humor and unfiltered truth. Born in Georgia and raised partly in Newark, New Jersey, Jackson launched her music career in the early 1970s and quickly became known for her gritty, storytelling style that tackled love, heartbreak, and sexuality with unmatched honesty. Her breakthrough came with the 1973 album Caught Up, a concept record told from both the wife's and the mistress's point of view. The album included her hit, If Loving You Is Wrong, I Don't Want to Be Right, and cemented her reputation as a daring artist who wasn't afraid to speak the unspeakable. She followed it with Still Caught Up and other bold releases that blended funk, R&B, and spoken-word monologues in a way that was revolutionary. Unlike many of her peers, Jackson didn't chase mainstream pop polish. Instead, she leaned into realness, cussing, crying, and confessing right on the mic. Her onstage banter became legendary, earning her a reputation as both a singer and a stand-up level performer. She often pushed the line but never without purpose. Her music empowered women to speak their truths, no matter how messy. Though she never topped the Billboard Hot 100, her work has been critically acclaimed and influential. Artists from Salt-N-Pepa to Erykah Badu cite her as a trailblazer. She also hosted a successful radio career in the 1980s and 1990s, showing another side of her creativity. Today, at 80, Millie Jackson remains one of the most authentic, uncompromising voices in soul music. She proved long ago that success doesn't require fitting in, it takes standing out and telling the truth, even when the world isn't ready for it. Nona Hendryx, 80 years old. Nona Hendryx has always lived at the intersection of music and revolution. As the most experimental member of the groundbreaking trio LaBelle, Hendryx helped reshape the image of black women in music, from sweethearts in gowns to futuristic funk goddesses in silver boots and space-age gear. Born in Trenton, New Jersey, she first gained recognition as part of Patti LaBelle and the Bluebells in the early 1960s before the group rebranded as LaBelle, pushing boundaries both musically and culturally. Their hit, Lady Marmalade, made history in 1974, but Hendryx wasn't content to ride the wave of mainstream success. After LaBelle disbanded in 1976, she launched a solo career defined by bold experimentation, merging rock, soul, funk, and new wave into a sound all her own. Her self-titled debut and subsequent albums like Nona, 1983, and The Art of Defense, 1984, featured collaborations with avant-garde legends like Bill Laswell and Talking Heads' David Byrne. Hendryx didn't just sing, she challenged. Her lyrics explored identity, politics, technology, and liberation, making her an icon of Afrofuturism before the term became mainstream. She also used her platform to support AIDS awareness, women's rights, and LGBTQ+ advocacy, often performing at benefits and writing music that addressed social issues head-on. Beyond her solo work, Hendryx collaborated with Prince, Peter Gabriel, Laurie Anderson, and Keith Richards, cementing her reputation as a genre-fluid visionary. She later explored performance art, theater, and sound installations, continually reinventing herself as an artist. Now at 80, Nona Hendryx remains a creative force, still working on new projects and mentoring young artists. While others chased radio hits, she carved a lane for fearless, futuristic storytelling. Hendryx never played it safe, she played it smart, loud, and revolutionary. Gladys Knight, 80 years old. Gladys Knight, affectionately known as the Empress of Soul, has been captivating audiences for over 6 decades with her emotional depth, warm tone, and commanding stage presence. Born in Atlanta, Georgia, Knight began singing in church at just 4 years old. By the age of 7, she won Ted Mack's Original Amateur Hour, foreshadowing a legendary career that would span gospel, soul, R&B, and pop. In the early 1960s, she rose to fame with her family group, Gladys Knight and the Pips, delivering timeless classics like I Heard It Through the Grapevine, If I Were Your Woman, and Midnight Train to Georgia, the latter becoming her signature hit and earning a Grammy for Best R&B Vocal Performance. Their harmonies were tight, their choreography smooth, but it was Knight's voice, rich with heartache and resilience, that left an indelible mark. Knight's career transcended musical genres. She earned 7 Grammy Awards, was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and received the National Medal of Arts. Her vocal versatility also led her to film, television, and even Broadway, where she played matron Mama Morton in Chicago. Even as musical trends shifted, Knight stayed relevant. In her 70s, she appeared on The Masked Singer, toured globally, and recorded fresh material. Her collaborations range from Elton John to Stevie Wonder and newer generations like Bruno Mars. Knight has also been a devoted philanthropist, working on education, diabetes awareness, and children's causes. Despite personal hardships, including divorces and health battles, she has remained grounded in faith and family. At 80, Gladys Knight is more than a soul singer, she's an enduring voice of love, perseverance, and grace. Whether riding a metaphorical midnight train or singing center stage, her legacy is already etched in musical history. Bettye LaVette, 79 years old. Bettye LaVette is soul music's ultimate comeback story. A vocalist who blends raw emotion with interpretive genius, LaVette didn't enjoy instant stardom, but she built a career that would eventually earn her comparisons to Aretha Franklin and Tina Turner for sheer expressive power. Born in Muskegon, Michigan and raised in Detroit, LaVette began her career at age 16 with the 1962 single, My Man, He's a Lovin' Man, which landed her a spot on the R&B charts. What followed were decades of near misses and overlooked brilliance. She recorded with Atlantic, Motown, and other labels, always garnering critical praise but rarely the commercial push. Her music straddled soul, blues, funk, and country, making her hard to pigeonhole but impossible to ignore. LaVette poured herself into each performance, her gritty voice colored by every heartbreak and hard-earned lesson. After a lengthy absence from the spotlight, LaVette staged a stunning comeback in the 2000s. Her 2005 album I've Got My Own Hell to Raise, produced by Joe Henry, reintroduced her to the world. Follow-ups like The Scene of the Crime and Things Have Changed, an album of Bob Dylan covers, solidified her as a master interpreter. In 2020, she released Blackbirds, honoring overlooked black female singers of the past. She has earned multiple Grammy nominations, a Blues Hall of Fame induction, and in 2023 received the Legacy of Americana Lifetime Achievement Award. Known for making every song her own, LaVette doesn't just cover tracks, she transforms them into autobiography. At 79, Bettye LaVette is proof that brilliance doesn't expire, it evolves. Her voice is a vessel of lived experience, still challenging audiences and pushing boundaries. She's not just a survivor of the industry, she's one of its fiercest truth-tellers. Ruth Pointer, 79 years old. Ruth Pointer, the eldest of the legendary Pointer sisters, has spent over 5 decades thrilling audiences with her robust vocals, dynamic stage presence, and unshakable charisma. Born in Oakland, California, Ruth initially chose a quieter life raising her children while her younger sisters Bonnie and June launched the group. But when the group needed a vocal anchor, Ruth stepped in, and soon, she became the soulful glue holding the ensemble together. The Pointer sisters first gained attention with jazz-infused hits like Yes We Can and Fairy Tale, the latter earning them a Grammy Award and crossing over into country music, a bold move for a black female group in the 1970s. But it was in the 1980s that the group achieved superstar status, thanks to Ruth's lead vocals on massive hits like Automatic, Neutron Dance, and Jump, For My Love. Her rich, commanding contralto gave their synth-heavy dance tracks a depth that made them both chart-toppers and timeless party staples. Behind the glitz, Ruth endured personal struggles, including addiction and family loss, but she emerged stronger, openly sharing her story of recovery in her memoir Still So Excited. She became an advocate for addiction awareness and has remained deeply engaged with fans across generations. In recent years, Ruth has kept the Pointer sisters' legacy alive by performing with her daughter Issa and granddaughter Sadako, making it a true multi-generational act. In 1994, the group was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and their influence continues to shape pop, R&B, and dance music worldwide. At 79, Ruth Pointer is still electrifying stages, proving that talent, truth, and tenacity never go out of style. She's more than a performer, she's a matriarch of rhythm, resilience, and radiant soul. Brenda Holloway, 78 years old. Brenda Holloway may be one of Motown's most underrated gems, but her influence on soul music is undeniable. Born in Atascadero, California, and raised in Watts, Los Angeles, Holloway stood out early, not only for her elegant beauty and poise but for her classically trained voice, which brought emotional nuance to every lyric she touched. She was also one of the first West Coast signings for Motown, a label primarily built in Detroit. At just 17, she struck gold with the heartbreaking ballad Every Little Bit Hurts, a song that would become a staple of soul music and later be covered by artists ranging from Alicia Keys to The Clash. Her expressive, aching vocals caught the attention of both Berry Gordy and audiences worldwide. Follow-up hits like When I'm Gone and You've Made Me So Very Happy, which she co-wrote, solidified her as a powerful yet under-recognized figure in the Motown pantheon. Despite her talent, Holloway often felt overlooked by the label's hierarchy and eventually stepped away from the spotlight in the late 1960s. But her legacy never faded. In the 1990s, her recordings found new life among collectors and DJs, especially within the Northern Soul movement in the UK, leading to a long-overdue revival of interest in her work. She returned to recording and performing, releasing albums that reconnected her with fans old and new. In 2023, Holloway was honored with the Southern California Rhythm and Blues Lifetime Achievement Award, recognizing her as both a vocal powerhouse and pioneering songwriter. Now at 78, Brenda Holloway continues to perform with grace and authenticity. Her voice remains lush, her spirit unshaken, and her impact on soul music, finally getting the recognition it has always deserved. Barbara Mason, 77 years old. Barbara Mason carved her place in soul history as one of the first young female singer-songwriters to write her own hit, and she did it with honesty and vulnerability that still resonates today. Born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Mason broke onto the scene in the early 1960s and immediately stood out for her ability to fuse teenage innocence with mature emotional depth. At just 17, she wrote and recorded Yes, I'm Ready, a slow-burning ballad of romantic uncertainty that became a breakout success in 1965, reaching number 2 on the Billboard R&B chart and number 5 on the Hot 100. It was a revelation, a girl speaking her truth in her own words, at a time when many female singers were handed pre-written material. The song became a blueprint for future female artists exploring young love, independence, and vulnerability. Mason's catalog grew throughout the late 60s and 70s with emotionally rich tracks like Oh, How It Hurts, From His Woman to You, and Bed and Board. She developed a signature sound that mixed raw R&B with lush orchestration and narrative-style lyrics. Her songs often told complete stories, intimate monologues set to melody that dealt with love, infidelity, and emotional survival. In the 1970s, she signed with Buda Records and embraced a more adult soul sound, further cementing her legacy as a storyteller for grown folks. Though she never sought mainstream stardom, her work has endured, especially in communities that value honest, heart-on-sleeve soul music. Now at 77, Barbara Mason remains a respected figure in the world of classic soul. Her music continues to be sampled, covered, and admired for its sincerity and relatability. A pioneer of lyrical self-expression, Mason's voice, both literal and creative, helped pave the way for generations of women in R&B. Grace Jones, 77 years old. Grace Jones is not just a performer, she's a force of nature. Equal parts singer, model, actress, and cultural icon, Jones revolutionized how black women, androgyny, and artistry were viewed in popular culture. Born in Spanish Town, Jamaica, and raised in Syracuse, New York, Jones began her career as a model in the late 1960s, commanding runways in Paris and appearing on the covers of Elle and Vogue. But it was her daring transition into music in the late 1970s that solidified her status as an icon. With her deep, commanding voice and unflinching confidence, Jones became the queen of the New York disco and art scene. Albums like Warm Leatherette, 1980, Nightclubbing, 1981, and Slave to the Rhythm, 1985, blended reggae, funk, new wave, and post-punk into a sound that was as unconventional as it was influential. Hits like Pull Up to the Bumper, La Vie en Rose, and I've Seen That Face Before, Libertango, weren't just songs, they were statements. Jones's visual presentation was just as daring. With sculptural makeup, angular haircuts, and armor-like costumes, she defied gender norms and beauty standards, becoming a muse to designers like Jean-Paul Gaultier and photographers like Jean-Baptiste Mondino. Beyond music and fashion, Jones became a cinematic force in films like Conan the Destroyer and the James Bond installment A View to a Kill, where she played the unforgettable May Day. Off-screen, she's known for her fearless interviews, no-nonsense attitude, and creative control over her image. At 77, Grace Jones is still performing globally, headlining festivals and pushing boundaries. She's a living reminder that art isn't about fitting in, it's about standing out, unapologetically. Few artists have been as fearless, visionary, and ahead of their time as Grace Jones, and she's still not done. Merry Clayton, 76 years old. Merry Clayton may not always be a household name, but her voice has left an unforgettable imprint on rock, soul, and gospel music. Born on Christmas Day in New Orleans, Clayton started singing in church, guided by her preacher father. Her powerhouse vocals would soon find their way into some of the most iconic recordings in music history. She's perhaps best known for her electrifying, chilling contribution to the Rolling Stones' Gimme Shelter in 1969. Called in for a late-night session while pregnant and wearing curlers, Clayton delivered a spine-tingling performance that stole the track. Her voice cracked from intensity as she sang, "Rape, Murder, It's Just a Shot Away," and the moment became legendary. The performance was so powerful, it left both her and Mick Jagger shaken. But Clayton's story goes beyond that singular recording. She sang backup for Ray Charles, Elvis Presley, Carole King, and Lynyrd Skynyrd. She's the voice behind Sweet Home Alabama's Boo Boo Boo. Her solo career included the 1971 album Gimme Shelter, as well as other gospel-infused projects that showcased her full vocal range. In 2013, Clayton gained renewed recognition through the Oscar-winning documentary 20 Feet from Stardom, which highlighted the lives and struggles of backup singers. Her story, one of talent, tragedy, and tenacity, stood out. In 2014, she suffered a devastating car accident that led to the amputation of both legs. Yet, Clayton refused to let the accident define her. In 2021, she released Beautiful Scars, a triumphant return that proved her voice and spirit remain as resilient and inspiring as ever. At 76, Mary Clayton continues to remind the world that backup singers are often the real powerhouse stars. Her career is a story of survival, soul, and the raw force of voice as truth. Denise Williams, 74 years old. Denise Williams possesses one of the most extraordinary voices in pop and R&B, a pure, soaring soprano with a 4-octave range that can float like a butterfly or strike like thunder. Born in Gary, Indiana, Williams got her start as a backup singer for Stevie Wonder, appearing with his backing group Wonderlove in the early 1970s. But it wasn't long before her own star began to rise. Her 1976 debut solo album This Is Niecy introduced her to the world as a solo artist with both vocal finesse and artistic depth. The single, Free, became an international hit, showcasing her ethereal tone and empowering lyrical presence. Over the next decade, Williams built a discography full of hits that blended R&B, pop, and gospel, including the chart-topping Let's Hear It for the Boy in 1984, a high-energy anthem that soared to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and became synonymous with the film Footloose. But Denise's talents weren't confined to mainstream pop. She became one of the few artists to win Grammys in both gospel and R&B, with tracks like I Surrender All and They Say earning her accolades in the gospel category. Her music, uplifting, melodic, and grounded in faith, found its way into both secular and spiritual spaces. Known for her crystal-clear voice and warm personality, Williams also made an impact off stage. She has been involved in mentoring programs and music education, encouraging young artists to find their own voice while staying rooted in self-respect and spiritual purpose. At 74, Denise Williams remains a celebrated figure in music, her legacy etched not only in hits and awards but in her ability to bridge genres and generations. Hers is a voice that continues to inspire, heavenly, honest, and wholly unforgettable. Chaka Khan, 72 years old. Chaka Khan, the indomitable Queen of Funk, is a 10-time Grammy Award-winning force who has shaped the sound of soul, funk, and R&B for over 5 decades. Born Yvette Marie Stevens in Chicago, Khan burst onto the scene in the early 1970s as the dynamic lead vocalist of Rufus, a funk band that gained national attention with hits like Tell Me Something Good, penned by Stevie Wonder. Khan's voice, sultry, explosive, and unmistakable, became the band's signature. By 1978, Khan launched her solo career with I'm Every Woman, a powerful anthem that celebrated female empowerment and became a global hit. Her success only grew with time, producing classics like Ain't Nobody, Through the Fire, and I Feel For You, the latter marking a historic moment by being one of the first R&B songs to feature a rap verse by Grandmaster Mel Mel. Chaka's ability to effortlessly cross genres, from funk to jazz to gospel to pop, set her apart. Her collaborations span generations and include icons like Prince, Ray Charles, Quincy Jones, and Mary J. Blige. Her vocals combine technical brilliance with deep soul, making her a favorite not just among fans, but fellow musicians. Over the years, Khan has been candid about her struggles with addiction and her journey to sobriety, emerging as a powerful voice for recovery and wellness. She's also been a fierce advocate for women's rights and LGBTQ+ equality. With over 70 million records sold, Chaka Khan has earned her place in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, 2023, and continues to perform to sold-out audiences around the world. At 72, her fire hasn't dimmed. In fact, she remains an electrifying example of how talent, truth, and evolution can turn a singer into a living legend. Stephanie Mills, 68 years old. Stephanie Mills is one of the most celebrated voices in soul and R&B, known for her powerful vocals and undeniable stage presence. Born in Brooklyn, New York, Mills began performing at a young age, and by the time she was just 9, she was already singing at the famed Apollo Theater. Her big break came in 1975 when she was cast as Dorothy in the original Broadway production of The Wiz, where she introduced the world to her iconic rendition of Home. Following her success on stage, Mills launched a flourishing solo music career in the late 1970s. With her rich, emotive voice, she delivered a string of R&B hits including Never Knew Love Like This Before, I Feel Good All Over, What Cha Gonna Do With My Lovin', and Something in the Way You Make Me Feel. Her romantic ballads and empowering anthems consistently topped the R&B charts, earning her a Grammy Award and several gold and platinum albums. Mills wasn't just a singer, she was a performer who brought deep feeling to every song. Her music blended gospel roots with contemporary soul, often exploring themes of love, faith, and resilience. Her voice, warm, full-bodied, and passionate, was always the centerpiece. Beyond music, she has been an outspoken advocate for children with disabilities, inspired by her son who was born with Down syndrome. She continues to tour and release new music, remaining deeply connected to her fan base. Now at 68, Stephanie Mills is proof that talent, faith, and authenticity never go out of style. Her career has been defined not just by hits, but by consistency and class. She's still singing Home, and we're still listening. Anita Baker, 67 years old. Anita Baker is the undisputed queen of quiet storm soul, a genre defined by smooth, romantic, and jazz-inflected ballads. Born in Toledo, Ohio and raised in Detroit, Baker's path to stardom wasn't immediate. She started in a funk band called Chapter 8, but it was her solo career that made her a household name. Her 1986 breakthrough album Rapture took the world by storm, selling over 8 million copies worldwide and introducing signature songs like Sweet Love, Caught Up in the Rapture, and Same Ol' Love. With her warm contralto voice and polished arrangements, Baker brought sophistication and maturity to R&B, winning 8 Grammy Awards in the process. Her music wasn't flashy, it was deeply emotional, richly melodic, and grounded in storytelling. Baker's delivery was often described as velvet, and she earned comparisons to vocal greats like Sarah Vaughan and Nancy Wilson. Albums like Giving You the Best That I Got and Composition solidified her status as a timeless voice in adult contemporary and soul music. Despite stepping back from the spotlight for years, Baker's influence never waned. Her music has been sampled by artists like Mary J. Blige, Alicia Keys, and Drake, and her 2023 return to touring drew sold-out arenas full of adoring fans, old and new. Baker has always maintained control over her artistic image, staying away from industry gimmicks and letting her music speak for itself. She also fought publicly, and successfully, for the ownership of her master recordings, earning admiration from across the industry. At 67, Anita Baker continues to embody elegance, artistry, and strength. Her catalog remains essential listening for anyone who values love songs with depth and devotion, and her voice remains one of the richest gifts in modern R&B history. These legendary women didn't just survive the industry, they shaped it. From soul to funk, gospel to R&B, their voices built the soundtrack of generations. But as they continue to inspire, we ask, are today's artists honoring their legacy or leaving it behind? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video if you learned something new, and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for more powerful stories that celebrate the icons who paved the way, and are still standing strong.